Oh yeah, here we go. It's episode 100 of Hype Drop, and we have CP, aka Denester, on the program today. Thank you for being a part of it, CP. Thank you guys for listening. CP and I really get into, obviously, Project Dive Roll 2 just came out, and with that we go into some of the lessons learned and just requirements of peaking and what that means to peak and what different kinds of training you can accentuate as you mature, and also his efforts in Lion City Gathering and being an advocate and a community leader and putting the events together and working to really advocate again for the community, and especially in Singapore where there's very different sort of atmosphere in terms of how parkour is received. And so I think we can learn a lot from CP, and I really appreciate him sharing. Thank you guys for being a part of this one. Listen all the way through, and I'll see you at the end of the episode. Cheers. You know, now that we're live here,
Yes.
I have to just like applaud you. Obviously the Project Dive Roll 2 was just amazing, super inspiring video. Just, you know, everyone loved it. It's already been kind of by the time this episode airs, at least, like I'm sure most of the people in my audience have seen it, but it's worth rewatching a couple of times, because every time I rewatch it, I've noticed, you know, just like the technicality of each roll at a next level, you know, and just understanding, oh shit, like that hand placement was just way different and than I initially thought. You know, you kind of first time it's just, you can see the scale of the jumps, and then every rewatch you get a little bit more of the technical like difficulty of like, what's that elevation change, is he diving over, and where are his hands being placed. And so yeah, just huge applause for you, my man, on that
Thank you.
project.
I appreciate it.
But yeah, like, so could you describe like how that journey was for you and why, you know, it took 4 years? And I know you've probably talked about this on your channel and on Dom's podcast and others, but just to reiterate, if there's anything.
Yeah, I guess it didn't. I didn't want to take 4 years. I didn't. I just wanted to do it in maybe a year or so, but it just dragged on for a little bit longer than I wanted it to. Mainly because of other injuries and work, and just overall, I had to manage time with my family and my relationship. So it just took longer than expected. And initially, I was quite against it because I don't really like to drag on projects for too long. It feels like I'm procrastinating, but it isn't really just procrastinating, because there's a reason why I'm taking longer to achieve those dive rolls. It's really just because I have quite high expectations of this project myself. So I wanted it to mean something. And if I were to just film any other dive rolls in that video, I don't think it would have that impact that you guys showed. Like that video has showed. So yeah, I guess by taking that long, it kind of paid off in the end. And I'm actually happy that I took my time with it, because I was almost wanting to post the video like 2 years ago. I kind of had like a small edit. It didn't have any like special like editing or anything like that. But yeah, I was like kind of done with holding the project back for any longer, because I had a little bit of dread. Like I was no longer looking forward to going for another day of shoot and stuff like that, because it was just tiring, and my body's, some days I don't feel like I'm strong, and if I were to go and try this dive roll when I'm not feeling fresh, then I know that it just won't turn out well. So mentally, there was a lot that I'm going through in terms of parkour, not like outside of parkour, but like even the jumps itself requires a lot of mental energy. So it was becoming like a dread. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't in that state when I was
How did
shooting
you
for this.
how did you push past that? What got you through that state and got you to hold on to the clips and save them for the bigger release years later?
I just didn't feel happy when I watched the edit. I know that I have more,
Yeah.
like I have more to show, which is always a like even after like this whole project
Yeah.
for two, when I watch it, I mean I'm happy right now, but during the editing phase, I was still like thinking maybe I should try this other dive roll. I still have this goal. I still have this shot I want to take, and I kind of like had to stop myself, I guess, because I already reached a point where it makes sense to end the video because it's like 4 minutes worth. Previously, it was like 2 minutes or something, and it was like, I mean, it can be a video still, but it's not really my. I'm still not fully satisfied. So when I hit 4 minutes, I kind of felt okay. I have enough content now, and I feel that all of it were very worthy to be in the video. So yeah, I think I shouldn't spend too much more time because it can just go on forever. And I think
Yeah,
that's
there's
like a bad habit of mine. I don't
mm,
know if it's a bad habit per se, but I do drag on my projects for a long time. Like even my other smaller videos in YouTube, it's like 1 year, 2 years, stuff like that. And I mean, there's a beauty in it, but
mm.
there's also like that you don't want to push past a point where it's just too late, like too long.
I know what you mean for sure. Yeah, there's a phrase that's been floating around actually in my circle lately, and it's perfection is the enemy of good, you know,
Right, right, right.
which is like what you're speaking to, I think. And certainly, I've any large project I've worked on that's been the issue. It's been an issue. Is just like, oh my God. And I've not worked on that many, but I've worked on at least one big one. And it took at least, I think it took us 4 years roughly to get it out, or it was like 2.5 or something, like way longer than we expected. We expected to put it out the same year we shot it.
Was it
And
the Merm
the
documentary?
yeah, that one exactly. And that one was going to
Eh,
be like that was going to be, in a way, I just pulled the trigger like you didn't, at 2 years, because like it was supposed to be like even longer, and I was just like, this is all I've got effort, like, energy for right now. It's just so much to build and edit and color grade and do all these things. It's really fun, like you said. It makes you so happy, and you're never really satisfied. But I guarantee, like, well, at least for this, how I feel like years later, you are more and more satisfied. Like the satisfaction kind of drips out over time because you're like, you know what, I really did put like so much energy into that.
yeah.
And yeah, I think people really felt it
I
for
feel like
sure.
you would know when is the right time to post it.
Mm,
Like when I decided, okay, I'm gonna set the premiere on the 27th of August. It felt right. It didn't feel
mm,
like it's any more of a dread anymore. I knew that okay, if I post it on this date, I'm happy because I've already spent this much time. I've already gotten this much clips, and I know that the product is going to be good. I'm happy. I'm satisfied with all of that. So once I put the date, I was quite happy with it because I know that I'm finally reaching an end point to this project.
mm.
So yeah, it's a good feeling.
And I would say this is certainly like the gnarliest stuff like to date that I've seen from you, or at least some of like in the dive roll category for sure. But like, do you feel that way about it? And if so, and regardless, I'm curious, like, how how do you feel? Because I think we were talking about, aging and getting older, and like how it's like harder to get balance in training, especially if you're still pushing your game like upward. At least if you still feel like you're pushing it, in further dimensions. So, how do you feel like this project sits? And do you see yourself getting better, and like how is it going to be balanced, and like even in this side, in this project, was it like more difficult in some ways, just balancing all your life categories with still pushing yourself in training?
For me, I don't think it was like the now years because I feel that dive rolls didn't feel physically extremely difficult to do. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
don't need like a lot of power. Like plyos, bigger plyos and stuff would definitely require harder power output. And I
Mm.
don't think during that 4 years I was at my like peak of jumping power in a sense. But that's the beauty of it, I guess. Like the dive rolls, they didn't require extreme power. It's more technical. Like the way I push it was more towards the technical feel.
Mm.
And like even the downwards dive roll is more about how you can absorb impact rather than how far you can jump.
Yeah.
So it's quite different. I didn't feel physically pushed to my limits, but mentally, yes, I think mentally there were some that were very, very difficult. Yeah, I was surprised that
Yeah,
I
I
actually
mean, I
committed.
guess that's what I mean by gnarly is for me, the
Yeah,
mental challenges are probably the more gnarly in my worldview,
yeah,
I guess, because if I can get in shape and I had to like, choose like recreate Project Dive Roll 2 or recreate, any number of jumps, I'm going to choose the jumps
yeah,
personally because I know how intense that must be to go head first at anything.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I've done like one gnarly dive roll in my, maybe more than one, but one that I stands out, and
Yeah,
I just, that was like, I remember it was like one of the hardest lines I ever had to film, and one of the hardest things I ever had to do because it just, like you said, it's, even if it's downward, I would say like, yeah, it's, you only have to absorb it right, but if you just don't do something right,
yeah, yeah,
at
for
least for
sure.
me, like I hit my hip hard on a concrete edge or a ground because of just my body is, pretty thinly fleshed. It doesn't have as much padding, but you're super jacked. I feel like you're like pretty strong. So I don't know if that helps you. I've wondered if people with like just big backs and just, big glutes and
It
stuff,
can
if they
help.
like
It can
can
help.
absorb more on the back.
But I also feel that I'm conditioned a lot because I just do so many rows, and over the years I just build up so much resistance,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's like it doesn't feel so painful. Like I remember back in the days when I first do rolls on concrete, it hurts so bad. But right now, it just feels okay. I mean, there is still some impact going on, but I'm able to take the impact a lot better. It's like my body doesn't say it's painful anymore. I mean, it still has impact, but it doesn't hurt. You know,
Hmm.
not as much as before. So I think the number of times I've done rolls really conditioned my like shoulders, my back, my hip a lot. So that's why I can kind of keep doing more and more rolls in the video because like some of the rolls do take more than one attempt. So yeah, it does build up, and sometimes I will have to take breaks in between the shoot dates because yeah, the next day it will be like bruised a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's only smarter to just rest it out first and then go for it when you're fresher. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's why it took quite long as well, I guess.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like, if about me in this podcast, sometimes I'm really into fighting, and I sometimes view parkour as a martial art more than anything
Yes,
at its core, and I love the idea that we sometimes get in a fight with these challenges.
yeah,
Like we actually can get beat
really,
up by these challenges. Obviously, you had that infamous
yeah.
bail off of the, that big over the, railing, or not railing, but I guess it's a
It's the
guard
shelter
railing,
onto a
yeah,
shelter.
onto that shelf, the one that Dom had pioneered initially.
Yeah,
Which I watched your backstory video on that, and I found that super interesting that that it was a different location because I didn't notice until you brought it up at the very end of the video.
the thing is, I
That,
didn't notice as well. Like,
oh
I
really?
really didn't that there was a difference. I mean, I know that it's not the exact same spot,
Yeah,
but I didn't expect that the difference was actually 2 feet more.
yeah,
So I don't know.
super
Yeah,
interesting because that definitely changes the trajectory of, it having like, to have like a more successful role, you would have had to gone like really upward and really downward to like meet the shelf so
yeah.
that your hip comes off the edge at the right spot, or just
I
like
think Dom,
change your,
I would say Dom would still be able to do it at that same spot that I
yeah,
did.
no doubt,
Not
yeah. I
yeah,
don't think it was like, it's just like they're both difficult, but it's just, it's crazy how much it can play into like that key, especially when you're having so much impact that you kind of really have to just come off of an edge. Like that's what's so cool about the dive roll in some cases is it's almost like you're spreading your landing or your impact absorption out. Like you only do half on the roll and then half on the ground. Like it's
yeah, 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 exactly.
because the technique allows for that in a way, and that's kind of what's sort of like unique and like I think so powerful about the dive roll and why you can take it so large is you don't actually have to take it all on that first
Right.
impact
Exactly.
if you know how to do it right. But it's just like, whoo, it's tough. That's cool. So cool though.
Exactly, because that one required both to be good, like
Yeah.
both your absorption on the hands and
Hmm.
then the second landing on the floor.
Yeah.
And yeah, both of them is so hard to control actually.
Yeah, man. I'm definitely inspired. I actually took a dive into I was riding my bike and so my shoulders are bashed up and a little bit scraped from falling off my bike, but once they're ready to I want to do some more rolls as well from watching you.
Mhm.
Um
Awesome.
so just kind of keeping on that point that we were a little bit gone earlier, I don't know if we got there yet, is just what do you see in the future for your training? Like, do you see it developing in any certain way? As do you feel like you're going to keep pushing yourself mentally? Or are you going to try to get into more physical challenges again now that you've put these, huge dive rolls in the rear view for a little while?
I feel like I'm very much a physical jump person. I like power jumps. I like flyers and stuff. So I'm always trying to keep pushing my power.
Mm,
So and that makes me really happy whenever I find a day where I jump really good. And I'm always trying to chase, to for all those fresher days, you
mm,
know. And to me, I don't think I hit my peak yet. I feel that my squats has been improving. I feel just some days I still jump. Like I surprise myself sometimes. I can still jump really far. Although I think still maybe 4 to 5 years ago there was a period in my life where I squatted a lot and I really hit some of my furthest jumps during those days. So I always kind of want to go back there. Although it's kind of hard because power is kind of temporary.
mm,
It's kind of sucky to feel that way because you can never always jump your furthest. Yeah,
mm,
there's always a point where if you don't, like build up with all the past weeks of training, then power will usually be gone. Like it won't be fully gone, but it won't be like your max.
yeah.
So to me, I feel as long as like my average days, I can still conquer some of the challenges that I used to do. It's already progress. Like improving on my average days, I guess could be
Mm,
how I see progress for the moment. And anyways, I've been training for so long, and if I want to continue training for longer, I also have to find other ways to progress, not just physically. Yeah, so mentally, I would say uh, I would approach it in a safer manner. Because sometimes some mental jumps are super risky, and I'm at the stage where I don't want to be, crippled or like not able to move anymore. Yeah,
mm.
like I'm coaching quite frequently, so if I turn up for class with crutches and stuff, it's not a good image. So I really want to be fit while teaching my classes as well. So I do value my body a lot, and like there are still a lot of mental challenges that you know can be scary yet safe.
Hmm.
So I just want to play in that area a little bit more. And of course, there's still the technical aspect of parkour. There's usually these three pillars: the
Mm,
physical, mental, and technical. So I think in the video, I played a lot on the technical side of things.
hmm.
But of course, most of the technical parts do play along with the other two as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'm also trying to get better at things that I don't usually do. Maybe like flips and stuff. Like I don't really do a lot of twist. I'm still working on trying to get my double fulls properly.
Mm.
But yeah, so it's still fun. There's always new things to try, and I've never really found I never really get bored of training. There's always new things to do. So yeah,
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'm in the similar phase. I'm even starting to trick and things here and twist myself every now and then. Um,
yeah.
what I'm glad you mentioned this phrase peak because I'm curious what your thoughts are on it because I'm fascinated with it, especially because I'm in the thick of the gray of just not knowing like is it really behind me, like this peak, what peak is behind me and what peaks are still ahead of me and which one am I in? And I'm just curious, what are you well, how do you see it in terms of like what is a person's peak, or do you see multiple versions of it? And
There's so
when
many.
yeah, when do you feel like you've had some peaks that have already come and gone? Do you feel like
Yeah,
there's some in front of you, and which ones do you feel like you're in right now?
yeah. I feel like to there are some very obvious ways to measure
Mm,
somebody's maximum or like peak.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would say like numbers, for example, how far you jump, how much you can squat and stuff like that. Those your PRs, those are usually your what you would consider your peak since
Mm-hmm,
you've that's your best attempt so far. But
mm-hmm,
you know, it comes and goes. Sometimes my PR can be really high on one day, and then it goes down. And suddenly I have another peak, and it doesn't really beat the first peak, but
mm,
it's still something very close to that. So it still feels like I'm in a stage where I'm still creating some progress. So it's kind of funny, um, but it's so hard to tell. It's like if you can jump really far on one day, but mentally you still can't commit to that same jump up high. But previously in the past, you may not be able to jump that far, but you were just at peak confidence,
mm-hmm.
and you'll still be able to commit really quickly to a jump. It doesn't take you that long to commit to that jump. Then it's also kind of like a peak where you're just so confident with your ability to move and your limits, so you kind of can achieve a lot and
Yeah,
stuff
in a
like that.
way, I think you're just like what you just made me think of is like it's again those three pillars. So you can
Yeah.
have like a peak in the mental, you can have a peak in the physical, you can have a peak in even the technical.
Uh,
And maybe you could describe even this dive roll 2 project as sort of a technical peak, in terms of your dive roll
right. Right.
capability.
Exactly.
Like that might be the high watermark right now for you, is just like that's as like that's as technical as I've
Wonder
ever
how
been.
much more.
Yeah.
There's no not much thinner I can go with the
Yeah, you could
real.
go a little bit more, but it's going to take like exponentially more effort every
Yeah. Yeah.
time.
Exactly.
And then same with the physical. Like I might have like put my physical, like my just max, squat and or jumping like distance outputs behind me. I don't really know that, to be fair, because I think if I really dedicated, I could probably put more out,
Yeah.
because it's not like I ever really, went for the number that was the highest number, like super hard. But
There's,
then there's like what I'm thinking of is like there's also like there's combinations of the peaks. So what's
yeah.
your
Yeah.
highest physical and technical? Like when did those two, like the average of them, become the highest? And then there's even all three. Like when you're that might be considered the ultimate peak, is when your physical, the average of your peaks was the highest. Does that
Yeah.
make
That's
sense?
true.
And
Well.
so like that
Right.
number is fascinating to me, because that is like that one is so complex, and of course it depends on what you're interested in and what your training style is, that it could probably range from anywhere between like 20 and 50, or whatever age, or just however many years, or just it depends when you get into the game and all that. But the question that people kind of like baseline go to is like, all right, well, all things considered, like being equal, let's say you started and you were dedicated from an early age, what would be like the best time in your life, for to hit those big
Yeah.
numbers? And
I guess. I
go
guess it's
ahead.
also make the peak last. Like how long can your peak last?
Oh
And
yeah, that's another
yeah.
very important thing. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
because I think the best athletes are those who are still going, after like 15, 20 years. I guess in the Olympics, there are people who are still, after 20 years, they're still medaling. They're still
Mm,
like, beating PRs and stuff like that. So I guess like knowing how to last so long and still making progress every now and then is kind of the goal, I guess, for all of us who are
yeah.
in it for a long term. Yeah, I guess to me, if I were to compare myself back when I was 18, 19, back then I could train every day and I
Mm,
would still have energy to go on and on and on. Maybe now I don't have that sort of endurance or stamina, but I don't think it's that bad of a thing. Maybe I learned how to work with, you know, um, being more periodized in my training, I guess. Like I have more rest time in between, yet I can still hit. high peak
Mm-hmm.
in my training, you know, and that's how I kind of last longer as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting as
I
well.
like that. Yeah, and that's like yeah, I think of just like, like there's a mountain range that might just have
Yeah,
more mass, way more mass than just any single mountain, or just like, that length of sustained. And that's probably honestly the best way to have the highest peaks anyway, is to have just a really high sustained thing. Cause then you're so deep in the process that eventually you have just these crazy moments,
yeah.
and maelstroms of things were coming together for you, because you're
You
in
did
it. So,
mention earlier, like now how I see how good I am would be to see how average, even on average days, I can jump far. Like
mm,
I will measure myself on those days because I feel that that's the truest form of yourself. It's not every day you get to be fresh. Not every day you get to be like tip top condition.
mm-hmm.
So let's say if you're doing a shoot and you kind of plan the shoot to be on your peak, for example. So you have to kind of be good no
Yeah,
matter what state you're in.
yeah, that's a dangerous thing to plan your shoot to be like at your peak.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, pressure's on. You might get injured in that case if you're not careful. Um, what was I gonna say? Was Yeah, man. I mean, it's just fascinating stuff. But I had something I wanted to ask you, and it was related to just like, what does your movement mean to you? Like what keeps you going after all this time? Obviously, it's enjoyable to train and push yourself. It could be just for the sheer joy of it. Is there anything like that in your mind your movement kind of represents in your life?
I think there's a couple of goals. I just feel that the constant reason why I keep coming back to parkour is just the self improvement factor in it. There's always things that you can do to keep improving yourself. There's no one way of progression.
Mm,
That's why I keep coming back to training. There's always something different you can do in that training session that can give you, that satisfaction in training. So yeah, that's one. And I also think I want to push parkour in a way where I inspire others to also push themselves. So just like in Project Darfur 2, I want people to, find their favorite movement. It doesn't need to be a dive or any favorite movement. They try and push that one movement to its peak. So I feel there's so many ways to add value to the community. There's so many things that we haven't seen yet, and it's really those people who dedicate so much time into that one skill or the one specialty that makes parkour so amazing. You see people like Verky and Ellis doing congainers out of new setups.
oh my
It's
god.
really crazy. Yeah, I really love seeing those kind of moments. And of course, like most of them, they are not just good at congainers. They're good at everything else as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is because they're good at everything else. They're kind of able to put all of them together into that one niche. Because I guess Berkey has so good concretes that his congainers are just amazing, super high and all that. So I think I do a lot of dive kongs as well, maybe, or like I'm good at plyos. So dive rolls to me, I already have the technique or the power to
Yeah.
kind of dive far. So it's more about how well I can absorb and all that. So yeah, I think being able to push your niche is also something really cool that I find like I want more people to do that as well. Yeah, and whenever I coach or I just want to let them find their own path and let them know that whatever they're doing, they have to enjoy it. I guess that's the whole point of parkour. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, then you won't stay here for long.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. It will come naturally. I feel, but also I don't want them to be like steered by others people's motivations and stuff. They have to they have to seek it in some way or another. It will come naturally, but also you want to be able to ask yourself these questions and hopefully find the answer as well.
Mm. Yeah, no doubt. Have you ever found like you've had those moments in your own training where the joy is I mean, we talked about it I guess a little earlier, the dread of the project even. Is that is that ever like more pernicious or more like does it come to you in different times of your training even when you're not filming a project, or is it just the pressure of when you're dedicating yourself to a project that can sometimes introduce feelings other than joy?
Mm, I don't feel dread in training itself, but yeah, it was only when I was filming for a project that I felt that specific dread.
Mm,
But I guess sometimes when I do get injured and I'm unable to move, then I do kind of like hate that feeling of just not being able to move, and the whole thought process of like, oh no, what am I gonna do for the next 1 or 2 months now
mm,
that I'm out of training? But I guess it's a process that we all will go through at some point, and I've started to find other ways to keep myself happy. One of the biggest investments that I had for myself was to get my home gym,
mm,
and it was during that period where I kind of fell in love with things other than parkour. Like it's not always having to jump far or like do flips and stuff to in order to be good at something.
mm.
Because I feel that just being able to just move or like have a wider range of abilities is also really helpful. And
Yeah.
if you're just stuck at, oh, I have to be able to do good dive rolls for the rest of my life, then like you won't be able to feel happy for a long time. So you kind of have to spread out, your happiness, things to make you happy about. Then yeah, like even when I was injured, when I was coaching, when I see other people achieve new stuff, that kind of makes me happy, and I still relate that to parkour, even though it's
Hmm.
not me doing parkour. So yeah, in the end, I don't really dread parkour itself. Just dread some parts of it where you know uh, yeah, I can't move, or like it's something that has too much pressure on myself.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well said. Um, and then coaching, is that your primary, like that's what you do for work these days? Uh,
Yes.
and that's kind of, that sounds like it's going well. I know you wanted to mention some things coming up with Lion City Gathering,
Right.
and
Right.
I
Right.
don't know if there's any, then if that's a good time to get into some of
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah. Definitely. So coaching is definitely my full-time job right now. I do a lot of private lessons at the moment, so I'm
hmm
quite lucky that people, in Singapore, they know me, and they are interested to learn and to pay a premium for it and all that. Usually, I started out doing group classes,
hmm
and those were really fun as well. I really built up my, my technical knowledge in coaching.
mm.
It's a totally different skill set, so I kind of like that challenge a lot. Um, and in the end, I feel that it's really just connecting with the people that you're teaching. That they want to learn from a human as well. They're not just paying money to just learn from a robot, I guess. But
Yeah.
I really value like that connection with people, and yeah,
I feel you big
you
time.
just
I've often like thought of like, and again I'm nerdy I guess, but here's my thing, is I see like so much of like guru almost culture. Like I don't want to make it like weird or anything for people, but like or like a Jedi apprentice kind of like relationship that happens between students and teachers, and I love the fact that like there is like a lineage almost. And again, that goes back to like martial arts kind of
right.
just
It's
the
true.
way that I map it in my head. But there's a lineage to like your instruction and who you take on as your master or your guru, you know?
It's
And
true.
and
I
I
never
feel
actually
like
saw it that way.
sorry?
Yeah, I never actually saw it that way.
Oh yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, no, well I think like I've always felt, well, I don't know if always, but I certainly feel that way now. And I feel like it's really cool to see like, you know, your students or people that even if it's not under a formal setting, you know, like it might not be like one of my biggest teachers, obviously, as you probably know, is Dylan Baker. And he
Right.
was, you know, we trained together, but it wasn't like necessarily under the tutelage of like, you know, a
Right.
private lesson. It doesn't always have to be as at that explicit level, but I see
Right.
that. And
Right.
like you, I'm sure, like even Dom is like certainly a teacher to all of
Yeah.
us, you know,
Definitely.
and what he's showing all of us what's possible and what we can do. And so it's just, we all have, the internet has made everyone like accessible as a guru in some ways, which is
Mm.
super cool. But and like your project Dival obviously is just, you know, the same kind of thing. But I do really love that what you were speaking to about the humanness past, or the human aspect of that coach student or like apprentice master kind of relationship, because
Right.
for the people that really take it seriously, and like not take it seriously, but maybe just the people that are super passionate about it, I feel like they end up, you know, really utilizing that relationship or those relationships to the max.
That's true. So I think parkour. The other thing that keeps me coming back,
Mm.
apart from my like progressions and stuff, is really the people in the community, like students, just like your friends in the community. I think there's so much to do that just gives me so much joy. So other than coaching, I'm also the vice president of Parkour Singapore. It's like an association where we run
Mm-hmm.
events and stuff like that. And the fact that I can run competitions and events and workshops and stuff like that in our country, it feels like I'm giving back. Like there's
Mm.
the avenue for me to showcase this sport, because there's just not a lot of places where we can do that. So whenever I get the chance to do it, I feel really happy, and I'm quite lucky that a lot of people know me and the sports in our country. Like I started YouTube way back in the days, and somehow there was a lot of people who already followed me, so they know my videos because we had amazing spots.
Mm.
Yeah, we still have them, of course. We only lost Bedok Maze,
Mm-hmm.
but still, uh, there's still a lot of amazing spots, and that's the reason why Lion City Gathering has that special, um, I guess that that is special because we have so many spots, and it started back in at the run and gun style. We don't have any permits.
Mm-hmm.
If the police come, we have to move off. But yeah, we managed to make it work for the first 2 years and stuff like that, which kind of put us on the map. And I'm just really happy that like this event took off. Now we have grown so much that we have to start working with the government officials. We start getting permissions for like legit permissions to run our events at those spaces. But of course, we started to have to spend a lot more money, and
Mm.
we actually did a lot more work in like the administrative side of things. So I've
Mm.
actually learned a lot of paperwork stuff, which is not exactly something that I super enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
but I still kind of find that my effort is going to be paid off once all the athletes are here and they're all having a good time. So, yeah, I think LCG is also one of my highlights. I would say LCG, in terms of projects, I feel LCG probably require even more effort than Project Baffle. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because there's just so much more people to deal with. Project Diver is my personal project, but
Mm.
there's like once you include like the rest of the world and the community and the government officials, the malls and stuff like that, then it's just a whole bunch of headache. But yeah, I learned to work with people, and yeah, it just becomes something that if you show your passion, you show that you're truly in this for the good. I think people will support it, even the people who in Singapore is still pretty backwards, honestly. But the more we try, the more we push, somehow people still support. So
Mm.
that's kind of a good thing. So yeah, you just have to find the right people to support you as well, and just have people along the way that will help you fight for that same passion. And that's how I guess you can last for a long term as well. So it really boils down to really human connection, I guess, that
Mm.
keeps me going and to keep the sport alive. If you're just training parkour for yourself, yeah, you'll be happy, but there's just so much more left to give. Like there's so much there's still an empty space after that. So I guess coaching and doing all this community event stuff kind of gave me like a new purpose. It's greater than self.
Mm.
And yeah, I think without it, I'll be a lot different, I guess. So I feel ever since being a coach, ever since running events, the way I approach parkour training has been so different. Yeah.
Can you tell us more about how it's different?
Yeah. Okay. I think one of the biggest ones was, back in the days, I used to climb roofs a lot,
Mm.
post videos about it. And, unfortunately, one of the videos, the police caught up with it.
Mm.
I don't know. It just got viral for a little bit. And I thought it was viral for good reasons, like the good parkour stuff in there and stuff like that. But the comments, slowly I start to see like people talking about the roof and like, oh, I'm trespassing. Uh, yeah, it's dangerous stuff. Like I'm walking on high balconies and stuff like that. Then I received a letter from the police saying that, oh, the mall has complained that I like got onto their rooftops, and like it's a security breach and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of scary. And that's actually it's Singapore, and it's really, really strict here.
Mm.
So I think Store actually came to Singapore before, and they did the exact same thing. They climbed a very popular mall in the city, and they posted a video about it, and the police sent them some reports and stuff. So they actually had to take the video down and write a full apology letter for it. So I kind of had the same thing. The funny thing was that I was in US when I received that letter.
Oh
So
yeah.
it was only when I went back after 3 months of traveling that I had to, give my passport I put my passport through the machine and it got
Oh.
confiscated. Then the next thing I know, I already expected it because I know that's
Yeah.
what's going to be happening. But yeah, I went straight to the police station with all my bags and everything. And yeah, I just had like, it
Is that
wasn't a bad, I wasn't locked up or anything. I just had to do a full on interview. I was in a bit of a lockup for maybe 6 to 8 hours. And
mm.
then I had to go home, and my passport was confiscated for a time being. So my punishment was I couldn't, travel for like 4 months, and I had to keep reporting back to the police station for every 2 weeks or something. But yeah, I didn't have to pay a fine, so I was kind of lucky. But because of that incident, Parkour Singapore had a bad reputation,
Oh no.
because like the news actually covered about the whole issue. Yeah, I actually first received the news articles about it, and then shortly after, I received the police letter. So it was quite a lot to deal with when I was traveling. I was
Mm.
quite like scared of about the whole thing. But yeah, ever since that incident, I learned that my actions can cause so much more impact than I think.
Mm.
Like if I were to be a vice president of Parkour Singapore and I'm promoting trespassing in the community, then I don't think it will push parkour to any further, positive light, because then the governments won't give me grants. The governments won't support building a parkour park, because that's the reputation of parkour is just roof climbing and
Mm-hmm.
trespassing and illegal stuff like that. So there was a lot to kind of erase from that incident. A lot of like public like PR stuff, and I have to like prove to them that like I'm going to do more community work to promote like benefits of parkour and all the good stuff about parkour. And recently, I think we also uh, got viral again because some of our classes, we run seniors parkour classes,
Oh
so
yeah.
it went on the news. Like some of the seniors were doing parkour with us, so um, even the press the prime minister shared about that article. So there was quite a lot of good news after
Awesome.
that whole incident. So it kind of like slowly building up again. And I guess we just need to keep building up the good press in our country, so that people don't see parkour as that that antisocial or like dangerous activity. You know, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done,
Hmm.
but I think it will pay off eventually. And it is tiring work because it's still kind of boring work in a sense. But if you're looking at it long term, hopefully, like with all this work, Singapore can finally get a parkour park, or Singapore can finally get, a good monetary support from the government every year, for example, and then we can run even bigger events. We can start flying bigger athletes to our events and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of work that people don't actually see. When people attend events, uh, they will still question, oh, that ticket price is so expensive, or like stuff like that. I feel like the community is still pretty young, I guess.
Mm.
So they will still take some time to start to realize, okay, there's a reason why the event fees are so expensive. There's a reason why even parkour gyms, like the classes, are this expensive. Just because it's just a hard business. But yeah, I guess also the people who join our community, they're not exactly rich, so, and they're also just not used to spending, since maybe 10 years ago, parkour was never something that you have to pay money for. So there's a lot of things that needs to be evolved in order for parkour to continue to grow. And yeah, it's just a whole new thing. So it's quite interesting to see how everything has changed. Like from 2007 when I first started, all
Mm.
the way to now.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you're a hero. Thanks for, I mean, even though I don't
You,
obviously live in Singapore, I know one day I'm going to be wanting to visit there, and
yeah, yeah.
appreciate the work you're doing to build out that whole community. What do, can I ask what you meant by, I mean, it sounds like it's sort of inherent, but is that sort of what you mean with these interrogations and stuff? Like, what did you mean when you said that Singapore is kind of backwards? I mean, with
Hmm.
their approach to things.
Well, yes, if I think if people visit Singapore, they might feel it even more. I'm sure the athletes who came to Singapore now understand that it's not a joking manner when you know you shouldn't be doing any trespassing, or you shouldn't be doing any illegal stuff here.
Hmm.
Some of them who they did some descents at the train stations, and they immediately got contacted. uh, they, the police is so efficient. They're able to find uh, your contact details and everything
Uh,
just from an Instagram video that you posted online. So we had to kind of educate all the athletes that come to Singapore to really stay away from being in the public's eye. Like
mm.
you can train, like just make sure that you're doing things that you know people won't like take a photo of and like submit it to the police, because there's just so many people who are just I don't know, they're just vigilantes. They just want to be I want to snap a photo of this. Even with the COVID rules and everything in Singapore, if you're down, if you just take off your mask for a little while, people can snap photo and they can just report it to the police. And it's
Whoa.
just quite lame that people go that far. I mean, I'm not talking about every single Singaporean, but there are
Yeah.
just that couple of people that can mess you up. So that's what happened, I guess, with Brody, I guess, and also Lam,
Uh,
this other Vietnamese dude. Both of their passports got confiscated for a little while because they had to go through some interrogation in the police station to find out what they're doing at the train station when they're doing the descents. Yeah, so all these incidents just prove how serious it is in Singapore, where you just can't break any laws. And also, it's not just for them, but it's really for the greater picture that we don't want LCG to be known as like that event where you get reported to the police all the time. We get
yeah.
complaints and all. So yeah, the first LCG, Storo actually climbed a roof, and we also get into police trouble for that. And there was also
The
the reason
Singapore
why.
police, they don't mess around, man.
Yeah, man, it's strict. It's really strict. I think in Asia generally, it's very very strict. Especially where in Singapore we are still like pretty first world. I mean, if you go to like lesser developed countries, you can get away with the bribing the police and stuff. But
Mm,
here, there's no such thing as that.
mm,
So, um, yeah, exactly. So I really think that people, I guess now they know, and they have been a lot better when they come to Singapore. They know what to expect. But when we first started, we also didn't brief the athletes, so it's very common for them to just climb up a roof and not know the impact that could bring. It was also the reason why we couldn't get permits for certain sports because we had police troubles before.
mm.
There's a lot of people, a lot of residents that complain, and you know, for them to give us permits for using their spots, they're not gaining anything really. It's us that gets to gain from it.
Yeah.
So we have to really, really fight to kind of prove to them that it's a good thing. But usually they don't really see it our way, so it's gonna be a hard time convincing them.
Well, I have
Yeah.
two questions for you. One is kind of simpler. I was just like, what are they asking you when they're in when you're interrogated for 6 to 8 hours? You know, what kinds of things are they just like making sure? Like, what does it seem like they're worried about? Is it worried about? I mean, it's the standard stuff. Like, is it a liability thing in Singapore where people get sued? That's kind of like what people,
So
sometimes first go to in America here. But, is it worried about maybe some kind of terrorism or some kind of,
yeah,
just
actually
something even
true.
more.
That's one of the points, but I feel it's just a formality thing.
Mm,
Like if you get reported for trespassing, maybe that's like breaching on the mall's security, and they want to find out like how you got in and what are the ways you kind of
yeah.
use to get into the building, and then the purpose behind it. For me, I was just taking videos, so I was just saying that I really just love taking videos. I'm not here to like steal
Yeah.
anything or like plant a bomb or something. So yeah, I just proved to them that all these photos I took was, yeah, just photos. It's
Yeah.
not like any secret thing. So yeah, there's a lot of formalities. So I had to keep reporting back to them with all these new documents, and it was quite a full-on process. Just
Jeez.
kind of tiring. It's just the law in Singapore. But
Uh,
I got away without paying a fine. So as long as you kind of like follow all the laws, you'll be fine, honestly. So
so they're reasonable, but they sometimes are tedious, it sounds like.
yes, exactly, exactly.
Um,
So you just don't want to get into that
yeah.
situation in the first place.
Well, how does this compare? Because obviously you've done some traveling. Like when you're in the United States or Australia or, the UK. I don't know if you've been to the UK recently, but
Yeah,
there is like more lax. Like in the UK is like I don't know what it's like in Australia, but I think it's interesting looking at what the United Kingdom does sometimes because it feels like they can get away with loads more in that just the way the government is set up and the way that police are empowered or not empowered to act on civil
yeah.
disobedience or trespassing or things like that. Have you noticed that? And like, what do you feel like when you're in those different countries and the culture has shifted?
In some places you can get away a lot more,
Hmm.
but even then, you still face guards like chasing you out of spots, and then sometimes if you react badly to those situations, then you're just not gonna have a good time. Like sometimes you can get into really
Yeah.
unfortunate situations where like people just throw things at you. But yeah, I guess it's really case by case as well, not just country by country. So if you're unlucky at UK, you can also get a fine. I believe so. If you're, but of course, uh, I guess the people over there, I just follow what the locals say sometimes. Like
Yeah.
if they feel like it's safe to climb this roof, then I'll just follow. But yeah, I'm happy to just let them guide me. And usually I try not to make any trouble. Uh, and so far I haven't got into much trouble while traveling overseas. Um, but most of the time I'm not traveling alone. I have people that are locals to guide me, so they know better than me. So I feel safe, and I'm following their guidance, so I don't think I'm breaking any laws.
Yeah.
But yeah, still something that like whatever, all the experience I have in Singapore, I also learn to kind of be respectful, and I don't want to like cause any public image to be destroyed. I know the feeling when people who come to my country and then like put us in
Oh
a
yeah.
bad position. I guess same with roof culture and maybe the Hong Kong police. I know the Hong Kong community has um, faced quite a number of issues. I guess I'm not sure the full details, but I guess that's the kind of impact.
Hmm.
Things can happen. But I mean, people will do whatever. I still respect Storage project and everything
Hmm.
with roof culture,
Well,
but there's some things that can
that's
escalate.
that's definitely something that we should all be conscious of, right?
Yeah,
What kind of impact we're having if we're going to take it, because I've definitely been known to take my training up into roofs and to be pretty public with it in some cases, and potentially detrimental to the image of parkour in my local scene, or even more broadly. But that brings like a very interesting question to me. It's just like, okay, well then where's the distinction, and like what is like, how do you discern between, like, is this something that, and it's probably up to the individual, or whatever, but you know what I mean, like, are we going to lose something if we never go up on roofs, basically? I think so. I think in my instinct is like, all right, well, I don't know, I haven't like dove down to the bottom of this question, but let's say we get the parkour parks we want, we get everything funded from the government, and parkour in the future is practiced exclusively in designated space. I don't know if we didn't lose something in the process if that's the case. In
I
my,
know
you
what
know what
you
I
mean.
mean? So I'm just
Uh,
curious, like, how do we ride that line, and where do you have like something that you can point to, that you use as like a guiding principle when it comes to, like, all right, am I going to get on this roof? Is it worth it to me? Is
yeah,
it worth it to the community?
for me, I think Singapore is out of bounds. Because I'm a a spokesperson of
Mm,
parkour in Singapore, so I don't want to risk that anymore.
mm,
But when I go overseas, I feel that I have that luxury again to to explore and do more rooftop stuff. But I
mm,
always try and ask the locals if that's okay. If I mean maybe I can climb the roof, but I don't post anything online with
mm,
some stuff like that. I guess people can start asking these questions whenever they travel. I feel that's something good to do. You know, and I know it might suck because maybe you travel and you just want to see the rooftops over there and all that.
mm,
But maybe I've grown to appreciate to not go up there anymore. Yeah, I had my fair share of it in the past, so I already know how is it like to be up there. But if I were to go to a country and I know that I might get into trouble if I were to climb out on this roof, then maybe it's just better to just stay low.
mm,
Yeah, but if the locals say yeah, it's totally safe and you won't get into any trouble, and they themselves have been going up there, so then I'll feel a lot safer, and I don't mind. Like I can finally go up another new roof again. So yeah, I think if we have these conversations with the local scene community and be respectful of each other's scenes, I feel that we will get yeah, we'll be a lot nicer to one another, and we won't risk getting into troubles ourselves or like putting them into trouble.
mm. Yeah, fair play. And when it comes to like artistic, like you're shooting for a video, um, let's say no one's done something, but you see something, and you're like, oh man, wouldn't it be like amazing if somebody did that? Like, obviously, like, they're not going to build a anytime soon. Like when they do build a parkour park, they're not going to build one probably large enough for someone like Dom to like test his front flip limit, because why would they put like a 30-foot drop or whatever, like in a parkour park, because only one person can use it. That's kind of also like a factor in my mind, is like there's always going to be that desire to like extend into the unknown, and like we talked about earlier, just push the infinite possibilities that are available within parkour. So um when it comes to like big game, terrain, or like I call it big game hunting when it's like you're looking for challenges that are like these ones are super high up, or roof culture Asia, like all those ones are very I'm curious, do you see anything that like you want to see that's maybe not that would be breaking the rules, but you still want to see it?
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like there's so much more you can do, even without breaking the rules.
Mm,
And I guess people use that to kind of gain virality, I guess,
mm,
because like roof culture won't be so prominent with without the fact that there's so many security guards, so many police incidents in their
mm-hmm.
video. But I guess like dive roll, the project dive roll 2 didn't require me to dive roll a roof gap, like a full on roof gap, for
Mm-hmm.
me to get this much recognition and all that. And I'm sure that Dom does a lot of dive runs without breaking the rules. I guess there are some that
Yeah.
are like on the line of it, but nothing too much. I guess now even the manpower gap, people do get into trouble. I guess you have to
Yeah.
climb a gate or something to get up, and I think even the French locals there might have some trouble. I guess I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
about it,
No, that's a
but yeah,
very good point. I actually was thinking about that earlier. Yeah, the manpower is like it's this iconic gap, and yet it's sort of, it's like Genesis is rooted in sort of a trespass in a way, just because
that's
I'm
true.
sure they didn't really ask for permission to do that. Although ultimately I'm sure they did when they shot commercials and things for it,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, I don't know. It's really a fine line, and I
well, and
guess
that's
if you, yeah,
I was just gonna say that's what I was speaking to. And it's like, well, are we gonna lose something if we. But the thing is also to ask is like, if we lose something, is it worth it? What are we gonna gain by that? And that's, I think, also what you're speaking to is like, there's so much to be gained by bringing parkour into like this um, sphere of acceptance and recognition and respect amongst the worldwide community that's just should be accounted for.
I guess
Am I
everybody
right?
will have their own viewpoints about it,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's hard to kind of align everybody's viewpoint to that one thing. But I guess as long as you feel that whatever you're doing is right, I guess like everybody has that, the right or wrong, how they view right or wrong. So as long as you know that whatever you're doing won't be a detriment to your parkour journey, or like your the people in your circle, I guess.
Hmm.
Then go for it. You can do whatever you want.
Well, and there's
But
that. Sorry, I
yeah,
was gonna say there's that trajectory as well, where it's like there's a certain time where we're all just gonna probably be a little bit less concerned with the community in some ways and be a little more selfish in our training. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
that starts to flatten out and go into a different area, like you were saying, just in your own journey. And certainly I think in most people as they mature through their training, they have certain eras, and it's like, yeah, like it's understandable if someone goes through that phase and they're like, I'm just gonna push myself and push the limits, and that's what I'm doing. I'm a teenager, and it's like, you know what? Do you?
yeah,
And then when you're a little bit older, um, it probably wouldn't work the same to approach it the
yeah.
same way.
Yeah, I guess people also change along the way. Like I
Yeah.
also changed along the way, and it's because of all the experience I go through that I realized that hey, I think there's more important stuff out there rather than always having to go up on rooftops.
Hmm.
And if you're in it for the long term, if you're looking at it like for long term, maybe it's worth the trade off.
Yeah.
Like maybe people won't be able to do manpower gap anymore, but you preserve that the iconic manpower gap. Like imagine the locals threaten to demolish that building, that roof gap thingy, that
Yeah.
shelter that you're jumping from. Then I think that's a bigger loss. I'd rather have that manpower gap still exist, but we can't climb up, or we're just not allowed to do anything over there. But at least
Mm.
you preserve that historic landmark.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's a poor example. I guess manpower gap. I feel a lot of people has been doing that, and it's been lasting for so long. And I don't think it gets into very big trouble.
No.
But I guess if there is something more like localized, and like for example, Bedok Maze, we lost Bedok Maze also because we just didn't build up good reputations with the residents. I
Mm.
see it that way now, but in the past, like I wouldn't be able to think that way because I don't care about the residents or stuff like that. But maybe it was because of that, that Storer roof incident where they climbed up and residents complained, and then now, like in the police community, the government, the town councils, they know that these people exist and they've been causing trouble,
Mm.
and now they say maybe it's better to just get rid of Bedok Maze so that we don't get any more complaints. So
Mm.
maybe we lost that for that reason.
Mm.
So if we were a bit more like mindful about what we do during like that time. I mean, Bedok Maze is pretty old spot, so like when I was younger, I wouldn't think that far ahead. But it's things where we kind of realize along the way as we grow that like there are better ways to do things that could kind of save some of our spots. But who would have known? Maybe it will still be demolished, I guess. But I guess
Yeah.
like doing this, at least uh, if I know, like if Bedok Maze is built again in another neighborhood, I would definitely encourage people to be more respectful and like be more open to share parkour in a positive light rather than just climbing on their roofs just to take a video. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like a it's not really a worthy trade-off to me. I'd rather have the spot. You know?
Mm-hmm. Important point. Yeah, man. It's crazy. Like, and we'll see too as obviously times are really wild right now, but I wonder as like we get older and we become the people that are living in these apartment complexes, and we have a different understanding of it as the consciousness changes. I mean, just like worldwide, if there'll be less complaints just to begin with people because, you know, that's part of the revolution I think of parkour and just any fitness that's kind of like resurging. Um,
Mm-hmm.
is like we're understanding that. Well, I'd like to think. I have no idea. Actually, it's probably who knows. The statistics might actually point the other direction, but I'd like to think that humans are realizing the importance of physical health and fitness, and
Yeah,
and making it accessible, and like we're realizing slowly, perhaps, but surely that there's no reason to really eliminate that play component of life, um,
yeah,
as you age, especially when the environment and something is cool. Basically we just kept recess going. As parkour athletes, we kept that recess life in I don't know if you guys have recess in your elementary schools, but that's what we called it in between classes. But yeah, we'll see if people are a little more receptive just generally.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Hopefully, I think everybody will grow. I guess every community will go through some of these. And I do hope that more and more communities take this initiative, you know, to kind of I only gain all this knowledge by running events, like
mm,
trying to do more community outreach to the local people, not just parkour people. And then yeah, I start to realize, oh wow, there's so many things that normal people think of about parkour that is still very backwards or like still needs improving. And then like it's also part of what we're not doing in order to improve that. So like doing more and more video on educating them about what parkour really is, like just general content that people can easily watch and know that parkour is safe. Like just a simple, like the senior parkour one is a very good image because
mm,
like you really remove all that barrier of entry. Like even your grandmother can do parkour. So it's kind of things like this that we need to do more of to kind of show parkour in a more positive light, and hopefully we start to get more and more access to government support and like just general acceptance from society.
mm. Yeah, there's a maturation curve, I think, with every
Yeah,
discipline, and we're certainly a little bit early still, but it's really cool to participate in. Um, is there anything else about Lion City, like about this year's event, or what's happening like
no,
in
it's not.
your
It's too
community
hard
in your
to
world
run
right now that you
event.
want to?
Yeah, even a local event, like we can't run any
You can't
local
do
monthly
anything right
camp.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of slow, like the progress in events is very slow at the moment. I think the most that we can gather in a group is like five.
Mm,
So yeah, there's no point running events. So actually, it's been a good period of rest, I guess, from all the administrative stuff.
mm.
But whenever we get the chance to, revive this whole community thing again, we definitely feel a lot ready and we're more rested for it. I think we're excited to start again. But now I guess that also gave me a bit more time to work on my personal projects and stuff like that.
Mm.
So yeah, hopefully next year or next year. I'm not sure. Even now, the borders are not opening up in
Yeah,
Singapore.
we'll see. It might. I mean, obviously, I don't know exactly what it's like in the southern hemisphere, but when it comes to this coming months, October, November, December, and January, we're gonna start to see maybe a resurgence. It starts to become flu season again, and
Yeah,
it could get worse before it gets better. So hopefully, we're all out of the woods soon. Are you? What are there any other things that you feel like you're learning in this downtime, and like how the community is changing and evolving, and that you foresee coming, and when things start to, I guess it's kind of it's almost seems silly sometimes to try to predict what's coming right now because of
right,
you
right.
know but
I just think patience. Like I
mm,
just like I don't get to travel at all now, so I do miss being able to train with all my friends. And like I feel that when I travel, I kind of progress so much just because you're always like when you travel, you're always training. In Singapore, even though you're not traveling, you're still working every day, so you don't get the chance to train like consecutive days so many times in a row. But when you're traveling, your whole purpose is to train, to travel, and like meet people that is still within the parkour zone. So it's kind of uh, like you have no excuses not to train.
mm,
But yeah, now I feel like I'm just being bombarded with work, and like now I'm trying to save up enough money to get my own house and
mm,
everything. So, um, well, the business is good. Like I have a lot of students, so I'm earning quite a good amount of money. So I'm not too worried about not finding a better job or something. But I do feel like this period gave me a lot of time to reflect, to train. I train a lot more by myself, even in at home in my gym, and I can really focus on really building my base again because I feel that like the injuries that we have talked about, I still need to spend more time building up again, and I quite enjoy this whole process, and I found that um, I started like doing content on um, mobility training and like strength training and stuff like that. And I feel like yeah, it's kind of fun. Like not a lot of people in the parkour community does stuff like that. And during the lockdown, there was the time where I was like making one video a week, and
mm,
I yeah, it was quite. To me, I don't do a lot of vlogs, but because of the lockdown, I kind of push myself to like still create content. I can't actually go outside to train anymore, but I still found ways to create things that are meaningful for me and hopefully for my viewers as well. Yeah, but we're quite lucky that in Singapore we still can go out, like training and stuff now, and that's the reason why Project Divo can still be filmed and all that.
mm.
So um, I do still have more projects in mind. Maybe not to the scale of Project Level 2, but I still want to go out and train and shoot stuff. But uh, yeah, I just feel that my content has been evolving a lot. It's very, very different from, when I was younger where I get to travel all the time and I get to train all the time.
Mm.
Now, like also with the algorithm and all this, the new ways to stand out, you kind of like have to make different videos uh, to still hit the audience. But of course, it has to be done in a way where you're still happy with your product. Yeah, it's just a lot of new things in mind that I feel like I evolved and I'm very happy with it.
Awesome, man. That's great. Yeah, man. I definitely think I should mention that you're, at least with me, achieving very much of that inspirational goal. You definitely inspire me with your project,
Thank you.
and speaking with you is has been even more inspiring. And so I appreciate like
Awesome.
everything you
Thank you
do,
so
and
much.
and yeah, man. I mean, I don't know if there's much else for us to cover, but I really want to thank you for coming on. And
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to thank you so much for this is episode number 100 of the
Really,
of
100.
Height Drops kind of
Wow,
return. So thank you for
I'm
making
number
the triple
100.
digit entry with
I'm
me.
happy. Thank you.
And
I'm
um,
honored.
yeah, man,
Honored.
my honor as well for you coming on the program. And yeah, if
Yeah,
there's anything
I feel
else you want
like
to,
yeah. I think just being on your podcast, I feel like I finally have this opportunity to also talk a lot about these topics that people don't really see. I think maybe people in my local community can see this, but on my online, I guess I'm not sure how deeply people know me through my online stuff
mm,
that I post. So it's good to have this avenue where I can get to share. But those people who meet me in person, they would probably hear a lot about this.
mm.
So now I get to share this online as well with you. So I feel that yeah, I'm very happy that people get to hear this side of my story as well.
Yeah, me too,
So
man.
yeah,
It's a very important part. Yeah, man. If there's anything else you want to share, please feel free. Otherwise, I will let everyone know. Obviously, your links and everything in the description. It'll be all there, and we can talk
yeah,
more about once we wrap here. We can talk more about what you want me to put in there. But much love to
awesome.
you, brother, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Awesome time.
Cheers. We'll call it there. Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, CP. Awesome, inspirational stuff from him. And real quick, I got to shout out Amino Co. as a sponsor of this episode. Their products, we have Heal and Perform, are the ones that I worked with. And yeah, basically, these things have been clinically tested. They do amazing results. I felt them. They were developed for NASA, for astronauts that needed to have good muscle protein synthesis and not have their bodies basically atrophy in space. And so even without exercise, these things like do some stuff, which is crazy. But with exercise, obviously, it's much more important to leverage those effects and make them work for you. And it's great knowing that the work you're putting in is just being that much more impactful. And especially like the Heal, as someone who's getting older, I just want to give my body all the recovery things. What I've learned with biological medicine and things where I'm working at now is also just how recovery is just the biggest component. That's you hear it time and time again, but it is truly the foundation of your health. So is just where you're at in your weakest points, and if you're going to tear your body down doing crazy things, you got to provide it space to repair and become stronger. It's getting stronger. Yeah, awesome stuff. It's really cool to be in the triple digits now with Height Drop. So thank you everyone for being a part of this, continuing on this journey with me. And I'll be looking for feedback in the comments, in the DMs, in the phone calls and text messages and whatever else as we move forward. And real quick, I just wanted to shout out also Eben Bartholomew, because he was someone who I only met once and tragically passed recently. And he was at the Guernsey Reservoir trip, and he was a great presence. And I really, just want to appreciate him, give my condolences to his friends and family, because anyone close to him, like I'm sure, feels a huge loss. He was a really cool person to meet and interact with, and definitely will respect his life by trying to be more conscious with my own. So much love to all of you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.